The message came through at 2:47 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon while I sat at my desk at work. I'm tired of your controlling ways. Maybe we should just end this marriage. It's clear you don't value me as an independent woman. She was probably at her feminist friend's house again, soaking up more opinions about how men are the problem and how she deserved a partner who respected her autonomy. It had become a familiar cycle. This was the 6th time in just 4 months she'd brought up divorce. The pattern was always predictable. She'd spend time at her friend's place, come back with a chip on her shoulder, start arguments over the most trivial things, and then threaten to walk away when I stood firm on what anyone would consider fair expectations in a marriage. But this time, something hit different. I read the message once, then again. There wasn't anger or sadness in me, just a sharp, unmistakable clarity. Something had clicked. I was done. No more emotional tug-of-war. Without hesitation, I forwarded the message to my lawyer and followed it up with a phone call. She's brought up divorce again. I told him the moment he answered. I need a clear understanding of where I stand legally, especially regarding the house. The property was solely under my name. I'd purchased it 2 years before we even tied the knot. She hadn't contributed a cent toward the down payment or mortgage. As expected, my lawyer confirmed what I already knew. The house was legally mine. If she's serious about leaving, I said plainly, she can go. But she's not walking away with my home. Are you sure you want to proceed with this? He asked. Sometimes these threats are just impulsive. I'm sure, I cut in. Get the paperwork started. I want everything in place. My next call was to her mother. I kept it short and factual. Your daughter has decided she wants a divorce, I informed her. She'll need somewhere to stay while we work out the legal side of things. Can she come back to your place? There was a pause. She said that again, her mother asked. She's not hinting this time, I replied. She's demanding it. So I'm simply giving her exactly what she's asking for. Her mother sighed. Of course, she can come home. Honestly, she never should have left in the first place. That remark caught my attention. Even her mother had doubts about her behavior. By 4:30 that afternoon, I had everything in motion. 3 close friends agreed to help with packing and loading. I reserved a moving truck for Saturday morning. My legal strategy was clear. I even took the time to compile screenshots of every threatening message she'd sent over the past few months. Evidence, in case she later tried to claim she was blindsided. The beauty of planning is that it keeps chaos at bay. I wasn't mad. I wasn't heartbroken. I was simply focused. She had dared me with an ultimatum, likely expecting tears and begging. Instead, I was calling her bluff like it was a contract negotiation. Then came her next text. So you're not even going to respond? This is exactly the kind of cold behavior I mean. I replied with one line. Your things will be ready for pickup this weekend. Your mom is expecting you. The silence that followed told me everything. She hadn't expected this kind of reaction. She wanted drama, emotional pleas. Instead, I was giving her the consequences of her own demands. The next morning, I took a personal day from work. There was a lot to sort out, and I wanted it all handled right. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't petty. It was me finally listening, really listening, to what she'd been saying all along. She wanted out. Fine. The door was open. Friday morning, I walked through each room with a clipboard, calmly taking inventory of what was hers and what was mine. It was shocking, actually, how little she had contributed to the home we shared. Nearly everything in the house, from the furniture to appliances and other essentials, had either been purchased before the marriage or paid for by me during it. Her things, a relatively small list. Clothes, personal items, a shelf of books, a few decorative pieces from her family, and that overpriced espresso machine she insisted on, used less than 10 times but supposedly vital to her morning routine. At 9 a.m., my lawyer called to confirm the documents were finalized. I've got your formal intent to dissolve the marriage ready, he said. Considering she initiated the talk through text and there's a record of repeated threats, you're in a solid position. Perfect, I said, checking off more items on my list. The moving truck is scheduled for 8 a.m. tomorrow. You're sure you want to proceed this fast? He asked again. She's been playing this card for months, I answered. This isn't me rushing. This is me finally reacting the way I should have long ago. By 10 a.m., my 3 friends arrived. These weren't casual buddies. They were people who had seen firsthand how she treated me and how often she dangled divorce like a weapon. Finally, one of them said as we began boxing up her things, "She's held this over you for way too long." We moved room by room, methodically. Clothes folded into suitcases. Books wrapped and packed. I made sure everything was handled with care. No chance she'd accuse me of damaging her belongings. It was business. Nothing more. The last thing to go was that shiny espresso machine. $1,500 for something that mostly gathered dust. Well, now she could enjoy her deluxe morning coffee at her mom's. Around noon, I called her mother again to finalize the schedule. "The truck will arrive around 2 p.m. tomorrow," I told her. "Does that work?" "I'll be here," she said, then paused. "You know, I warned her. Told her this kind of behavior would catch up to her. You don't threaten your way through a marriage." "You tried," I said, keeping it respectful. "That girl's been spoiled all her life," she said. "Thinks she can say anything without consequences. Maybe this'll be her wake-up call." Tough words from her own mother. But she wasn't wrong. Even her family had seen the signs. By the evening, everything was packed and ready. The house looked different, tidier, calmer, less cluttered. I realized I hadn't felt this relaxed in my own home in months. I sent her one last message. "Your belongings will be delivered to your mother's place at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Divorce papers will be filed Monday morning." This time, my phone rang instantly. "You're not serious," she said, her voice rising. "You're actually going through with this?" "You asked for a divorce," I said coolly. "I'm just giving you what you wanted. But I was just upset." "I didn't actually mean I wanted to end our marriage," she said. I looked at her, unfazed. "You've said that same thing 5 different times," I reminded her calmly. "At what point do your words start carrying real weight?" "This is ridiculous," she snapped. "You're willing to throw everything away over one message." "I'm not discarding anything," I said firmly. "You let go of this marriage the moment you decided threatening to leave was how you'd handle every disagreement. I'm just finally believing you meant it." She hung up on me. Good. That was one less confrontation I'd have to deal with when she saw her things gone the next day. Saturday morning at 7:45, the moving truck arrived as scheduled. My friends were already there, coffee in hand, ready to load up everything and get it over to her mom's place. The boxes were labeled, stacked neatly, and arranged for easy transport. At 8:30, as we loaded the final few, her car rolled into the driveway. I watched from the front window as she sat motionless, staring at the truck like her mind couldn't make sense of it. After about a minute, she stepped out slowly, disbelief all over her face. Her activist friend was with her, probably expecting a shouting match or some emotional outburst worth talking about later. "What is going on?" she demanded, gesturing wildly at the truck. "Why is my stuff being moved?" "To your mom's, like I said yesterday," I replied casually, still carrying a box. "You can't just kick me out of my own house." Her voice was getting sharper. I paused and looked her in the eye. "This isn't your house. Title's in my name. You've never paid a dime on the mortgage. And more importantly, you're the one who wanted a divorce. I never told you to toss me out into the street." "I'm not," I replied coolly. "I'm sending you to your mother's, where you'll be comfortable until the legal process is finalized, just like you asked for." Her friend stepped forward, clearly trying to mediate. "Hey, maybe we can all take a breath and talk this out calmly. We've been trying to talk for months," I told her. Every single conversation ended the same way, divorce threats. So now we're having a divorce. That chapter is closed. My wife, or soon-to-be ex, turned to the truck again, watching her life get packed away. "You're actually going through with this?" "You already did," I said. 6 times in 4 months. I'm just finally taking your repeated promises seriously." She bolted for the front door, probably to cause a scene or barricade herself inside. I stepped in front of her. "The locks were changed this morning," I informed her. "This house belongs to me. You no longer live here." That was when reality slapped her in the face. Her expression twisted, first confusion, then fury. "You can't do this," she screamed. "You can't lock me out and steal my home." "I can't take what was never yours," I said evenly. "And nothing I'm doing is illegal. I've consulted with my lawyer. Everything is above board. Neighbors had started to gather. Mrs. Henderson from next door stood in her yard, pretending to water her plants, but clearly hanging on every word. "This is insane," she shouted to no one in particular. 3 years of marriage, and you throw it away over one stupid text. 6 texts, I corrected, plus every verbal threat in between. You made it obvious that this marriage wasn't something you valued anymore. I'm simply acting on that truth. Her friend tried again. There's got to be a less extreme way to handle this. That window closed when she decided manipulation was better than communication. There are consequences. My wife stood there in the driveway, stunned as her belongings disappeared into the truck, suddenly grasping, for the first time, that I wasn't bluffing. It was practically street theater by now. At least 6 neighbors were watching from porches and driveways. She saw the audience and decided to put on a show. "This is what emotional abuse looks like," she yelled, pointing at me like she was testifying in court. "He's making me homeless, just for standing up for myself." Mrs. Henderson chuckled audibly from across the lawn. "Sweetheart, we've all heard you screaming about leaving him every other week. Looks like he finally believed you." The words hit hard. She turned toward Mrs. Henderson, face red with rage. "You don't know anything about our relationship," she screeched. "I know what I've heard through the walls," Mrs. Henderson replied without flinching. "And I've seen him stay patient far longer than most would." That broke something in her. She stormed toward the truck and yanked a box out of one of my friend's hands. "You're not taking my things. This is theft." My friend looked over, waiting for a signal. I nodded. "Let her have that one." She clutched the box to her chest like it was sacred, though it only held kitchen towels. "1 box," I said evenly. "You get to choose one. Everything else is going to your mom's as arranged." "I'm not leaving," she snapped, plopping herself down on the driveway, arms wrapped around the box. "This is my home, too." I pulled out my phone and held it up for her to see. "I'm calling the police. You can explain why you're trespassing after threatening divorce for months." Her friend jumped in quickly. "Wait! Please don't do that. That's not necessary." Then she needs to follow the truck to her mother's. Those are her options. That's it. Her friend crouched next to her, whispering in her ear, probably telling her this wasn't going to play out well in front of all these witnesses. Just then, Mr. Johnson across the street chimed in. "You did the right thing, son. Can't let someone walk all over you in your own house." She heard that too. Shot up from the pavement like she'd been slapped. "Walk all over him," she screamed. "I'm his wife. I have rights." "You have the right to divorce," I said, "which is what you've been insisting on for months. So that's what we're doing." She looked around, every neighbor watching her meltdown. No one was coming to her defense. Whatever support she thought she'd get wasn't there. "Fine," she barked. "Then I want half of everything. Half the house. Half your savings. Half of it all." I couldn't help but smile. "You're free to ask for whatever you want in court. My attorney will be happy to present all the screenshots, messages, and financial records. You've never paid into the mortgage. You've never contributed to the bills. Let's see how far that gets you." Her friend tugged at her arm, trying to lead her away. "Come on. Let's go. You can fight it out legally." But she wasn't done. She stormed up to me, eyes blazing. "You think you've won," she hissed. "You think this makes you smart." "I think I finally stopped losing," I said, cool and measured. That took the wind right out of her. She stood there in silence, looking at the almost empty truck, the silent neighbors, the house she'd been shut out of. "I hate you," she whispered. "I know," I replied. "This divorce, it really is for the best." I said it as the last box slid into the moving truck. That was the moment her entire energy shifted. All the fury she'd clung to drained away, and in its place stood someone I barely recognized, softer, almost fragile, begging. "Wait," she whispered, her hand clutching my arm just as I stepped toward the truck. "Please, just give me a minute. 1 minute to talk." Her friend stood nearby, clearly baffled by the sudden change. But I wasn't surprised. I'd seen this act before. When yelling failed and guilt didn't work, this was her last card to play. Feigned vulnerability. "There's nothing left to discuss," I said, gently peeling her fingers from my sleeve. "You've made your stance very clear, time and time again." "No, I haven't," she said quickly, voice trembling. I was scared. I pushed because I didn't think you really cared. I thought if you fought for me, I'd know I mattered. I studied her with quiet curiosity. So your way of proving I loved you was by threatening to end us? Tears welled up in her eyes. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I needed reassurance. You mattered enough that I stayed through months of emotional tug-of-war, I said calmly. That should have been enough. She stepped closer, took both my hands, her voice cracking. I love you more than anything. Please, don't do this. Don't walk away. A few neighbors still lingered, awkwardly pretending not to watch. Some slipped back into their homes. I'm not the one who ended this, I said firmly. You did, months ago, the first time you threw the word divorce at me like a weapon. Everything since has just been me slowly accepting what you kept saying. I don't want it to be over, she insisted, squeezing my hands. I want to fix us. I'll never threaten to leave again, I swear. I'll change. Her friend finally spoke. Maybe you should hear her out. She seems genuine. I turned to the friend, incredulous. She seemed genuine 5 times before. Same promises. Same tears. How many times am I supposed to buy the same apology? My wife gripped my hands tighter. This time is real. I swear on my mother's life. I'll go to counseling, therapy, anything you want. What I want, I said, pulling free, is a partner who doesn't weaponize leaving every time we argue. I want honesty. And respect. I do respect you, she sobbed. Respect doesn't look like threatening divorce 6 times, I replied. That's the opposite of respect. Her crying deepened, full-on sobbing now. Please, don't make me go back to my mother's. I'll take the couch, the guest room, anything. Just don't send me away. For a second, watching her unravel like that, I almost pitied her. Almost. You should have thought about all this before treating our marriage like it was disposable, I said. The driver called out. He was ready to head out. She turned, staring at the truck, realization crashing in. She looked back at me, voice breaking. I love you. I really love you. I believe you do, I said quietly. But love without respect isn't enough. You can't truly love someone you threaten to leave. Her friend gently took her arm. Come on, she said. Let's follow the truck to your mom's. As they drove away behind the movers, I felt nothing but relief. No pain, no doubt. Just a calm knowing that it was over, and I could finally rebuild in peace. 3 weeks later, I was sitting on the back porch, sipping coffee, soaking in the stillness of my own space. No shouting, no drama, no second-guessing every word or action to avoid triggering another meltdown. Just quiet. The divorce paperwork had been filed. Her lawyer's attempts to claim spousal support and part of the house were swiftly denied, thanks to documentation of her repeated abandonment threats and the fact that she hadn't contributed a cent to the mortgage. Then my phone buzzed. A message from her mother. Thank you for sending her home. She needed to go through this. Apparently, being 32 and back in her childhood bedroom hadn't gone well. Her mother enforced strict rules. No overnight male guests, shared chores, curfews, and limited visits from her feminist friend. Weekends only. She cried nearly every night, her mother told me during a short call about the divorce logistics. But even her mom said she was starting to understand why I'd made the choice I did. I didn't find joy in her pain, but I felt no guilt either. Choices have consequences. She was finally living with hers. The neighborhood had returned to normal. Mrs. Henderson still waved each morning and occasionally commented on how quiet things had become. Mr. Johnson helped me install a new security system the following weekend. He said the whole situation had been a wake-up call for him, too. Work was going better than ever. With the emotional burden gone, I found energy for projects I'd long put off. 2 weeks after she moved out, I got a promotion. Not a coincidence, I'm sure. Dating wasn't even on my radar. I was rediscovering myself, my interests, my peace. I was cooking again, reading, inviting friends over without dreading what scene she might cause. The house felt like mine. I'd rearranged everything, added new furniture, and converted her old craft room into a home office. Every change made the space feel more like me. Then one night, her feminist friend called. I owe you an apology, she said. I didn't know the whole story back then. What changed? I asked. I let her stay with me for a week while she apartment hunted, she said. She threatened to move out 3 times, just because I asked her to clean up after herself. That's when I understood what she dealt with. Even her most loyal supporter had finally seen the truth when she experienced it firsthand. The divorce finalized 6 weeks after the moving truck pulled away. No courtroom drama, just a stack of papers confirming what had already ended. I kept the house, my retirement fund, and my peace. She got a fresh start, and hopefully a new perspective. 6 months later, I ran into her at the grocery store. She looked different, softer, more grounded. We exchanged polite greetings. She told me she started therapy. I understand now why you did what you did, she said. I'm working on why I kept ruining something that was good. That's probably the healthiest thing you can do, I replied. For what it's worth, she added, you taught me that words matter, and that I needed to learn that lesson. As I watched her walk away, I felt content. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is stop protecting someone from the consequences they create. She got the lesson she needed, and I got the peace I'd been longing for.